Today, I am talking to Brandon Taylor, the author of Real Life, Filthy Animals, and The Late Americans. Brandon is also a notable book reviewer, and of course, he writes a Substack called Sweater Weather. Brandon, welcome.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
What did you think of the newly discovered Chopin waltz?
Um, I thought, I remember very vividly waking up that day and there being a new waltz. But it was played by Lang Lang, which I did not. I don't know that like he's my go-to Chopin interpreter. But I don't know. I was excited by it. I don't know. It was in a world sort of dominated by this ethos of like nothing new under the sun. It felt wonderfully novel. I don't know that it's like one of Chopin's like major. I don't know that it's like
Yeah.
major. It's sort of definitively like middle of the road, middle tier Chopin, I think. But I enjoyed it. I played it like 20 times in a row.
Right.
So
I like those moments because I like it when people get surprised into realizing that it's not fixed what we know about the world. And you can even actually get new Chopin, right?
I mean it felt a little bit like when Beyonce did her first big surprise drop. It was like new Chopin just dropped. Oh my God.
Yeah.
All my sort of classical music nerd group texts were buzzing. It felt like a real moment,
Yeah.
actually.
And I think it gives people a sense of what art was like in the past. Like you can
Mm,
go like, oh my God, new Chopin. Like, yes, that those feelings are not just about modern culture, right? That used to happen with like, oh my God, a new Jane Austen book is here,
oh, I know. Well,
right?
I mean, I was like reading a lot of Emile Zola up until I guess late last year, and at some point I discovered that he was like an avid amateur photographer, and in like the French Ministry of Culture has like digitized a lot of his glass plate negatives, and one of them is a, like a picture that Zola has taken of Manet's portrait of him. And it's just like on a floor somewhere. Like he's like sort of taken this like very rickety early camera machinery to this place where this portrait is and like taken a picture of it. It's like wow, like you can imagine that like Manet's like here's this painting I did of you and Zola is like ah yes, I'm going to take a picture to commemorate it. And so I sort of love that.
What other of his photos do you like?
Well, there's one of him on a bike riding toward the camera. That's really delightful to me because it like that impulse is so recognizable to me. Um, there are all these photos that he took of his mistress that were also just like you can like there are also photographs of his children and of his family. And again, those feel so like recognizable to me. It's not he's not even like a very good photographer. It's just that he was taking pictures of his like daily life, except for his kind of stunt photos where he's riding the bike and it's like, ah yes, Zola, if he would have been great with an iPhone camera.
Which pianists do you like for Chopin?
Um, which pianist do I love for Chopin? Them I like Polini a
Yeah.
lot. Polini's amazing. Um, Polini the elder, not Polini the younger. The younger is not my favorite. And he died recently, Maurizio
Yes.
Polini. He died very recently. Um, maybe he's my favorite. I love Horowitz. Horowitz is wonderful at Chopin, but it's obviously it's like not his, you don't sort of go to Horowitz for Chopin, I guess, but I love his Chopin. Um, and sometimes Trifonov. Trifonov has a couple Chopin recordings that I really, really like. I tend not to love Trifonov as much, but
Really?
I know it's controversial. It's very controversial. I
Tell me
know.
why. Tell me why.
I I don't know. He's just a bit of a banger to me. Like he's sort of I don't know, his playing is so flashy and he feels a bit like a keyboard basher to me sometimes. Um,
You
but
don't
like,
like, do you like his bark?
I haven't done a deep dive.
Mhm.
maybe I should do a sort of more rigorous engagement with Trifonov. But yeah, I don't. He's just not. He doesn't make my heart sing.
Oh,
Um,
I think he's very good at Bach.
hmm.
Yeah. What about Martha Argerich
Oh, I mean,
for
she's
Chopin?
incredible. She's
Yeah.
incredible. I bought that sort of big orange box set of like all of her sort of like masterwork
Mm.
recordings. And she's incredible. She has such feel for Chopin. But she doesn't, I think sometimes people can make Chopin feel a little like treacly, like a little too sweet. And she has this perfect understanding of his like rhythm and his like inner nuances and like the crispness in his compositions. Like she really pulls all of that out. And I love her. She has such obviously great dexterity, but like a real sort of exquisite sensitivity to the rhythmic structures of Chopin.
You listen on CD?
No, I listen on vinyl and I listen on streaming, but mostly vinyl.
Mostly vinyl.
Yeah, mostly vinyl. I know it's very annoying.
No, 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 no. What are the good speakers?
I forget where I bought these speakers from, but I sort of did some Googling during the pandemic of like best speakers to use. I have a U-turn audio, U-turn orbital uh record player, and so I was just looking for good speakers that were compatible and like did wouldn't take up a ton of space in my apartment because I was moving to New York and had a very tiny, tiny apartment. So they're just from sort of standard. I forget the brand, but they've served me well these past few years.
And do you like Olufsen? He's done some Chopin.
Who?
Victor Olufsen. He
I
did the Goldbergs this year, but he's done some Chopin before. I think he's quite good.
Oh, that Icelandic guy
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
with the glasses.
That's right. And the
Yes.
very neat hair.
Yes. Oh, he's so
Yes.
chic. He's
Yeah.
so chic. I don't know his Chopin. I know his, there's another series that he did somewhat recently that I'm more familiar with. Um, but
And who do you?
he has good Beethoven,
Oh yeah,
Olafson.
yeah.
And
What?
normally I don't love Beethoven, but like his
Really?
Beethoven,
Why? Why? What's wrong with Beethoven? All these are
I,
the controversial opinions about music.
I'm not trying to have controversial opinions. I just, I think I'm such, I mean, I'm just like a dumb person. And so like I don't have a really, I feel like I don't have the robust understanding to like fully appreciate Beethoven and all of his sort of like majesty. And so maybe I've just not heard good Beethoven and I need to sort of go back and sort of get a real understanding of it. But I just tend not to like it. It feels like, I don't know, like grandma's living room music to me sometimes.
What other composers do you enjoy?
Oh, of course,
Or other
Rachmaninoff.
music generally, right?
Rachmaninoff is so amazing to me. There was, of course, Bach. Brahms. Oh, I love Brahms, but like
Okay.
specifically the Intermezzi. I love
Mm.
the Intermezzi. Um, I recently fell in love with, oh, his name is escaping me now, but I went to a concert and they sort of did, um, a Brahms Intermezzi, and they also played this. I think he was an Austrian composer, and his music was like it wasn't experimental, but it was like quite it had a lot of dissonance in it, and I found it like really interesting and like really moving actually. And so I did a sort of listening to that constantly. Oh, I forget his name. But Brahms, Chopin, Rachmaninoff, love Rachmaninoff. I have a friend who says that Rachmaninoff writes Negro spirituals. And I love that theory that Rachmaninoff's music is like the music of the slaves. It just, I don't know. That really resonates with me spiritually.
Which pieces of which rank, like symphonies, concertos, piano
Well,
music?
yeah, the concertos, but like specifically, like I have a friend who said that Rock 2 sounded to her like the sort of spiritual cry of like the slaves, and we were at like a hangout with like mostly black people, and she like stopped playing like Juvenile, like the rapper, and she put on rock 2 and we just like sat there and listened, and it did feel like something powerful had entered the
Mm.
room. um Yeah, but he's my guy. I secretly really, really love him. I like Liszt, but like it really depends.
Hmm.
Depends on the day and the time for him. He makes good folk music, Liszt. I love his folk era.
What is it that you enjoy about tennis?
What do I enjoy about tennis? Um, I love not thinking.
Hmm.
I love being able to hit the ball for hours on end and like not think, and like it's the one part of my life, it's the one time in my life where my experience is just like totally unstructured. And so um like this morning I went to a 7 a.m. drill and play class where you do drills for an hour and then you play doubles for an hour. And during that first hour of drills, I was just like hitting the ball. I was at the mercy of the guy feeding us the ball. And I didn't have a single thought about books or literature or like the status of my soul or like the nature of American democracy. It was just like, did I hit that ball well? Did I hit it kind of off center? Were there tingles in my wrist? Yes or no? Like it was just very, very grounding in the moment. And I think that is what I love about it.
Do you like to watch tennis?
Oh, yeah, constantly. Sometimes when I'm in a work meeting, the Zoom is here and the tennis is like playing
Yeah.
in the background. Love tennis, love to watch, love to play, love to think about, to ponder.
Who are the best players for you?
Oh, well, the best players. My favorite players are Roger Federer, Serena Williams, Stanislas Wawrinka. Love Wawrinka. Um, and I was a really big Davydenko head back in the day. Nikolai Davydenko was this Russian player he was like a metronome. He just like would not miss. But yeah, those are my favorites. Right now, the guy I'm sort of rooting for who's still active is Casper Ruud, who's this Norwegian guy. And I love him because he just looks like some guy. Like he just looks like he should be in a seminary somewhere. I, I love it. I love his normalness. He just looks like an NPC. And that I'm drawn to that in a tennis player.
It's hard to think of tennis in novels. Why isn't there more
Mm.
of it?
Why? Well, I think a lot of people don't. Well, I think part of it is a lot of novelists don't play sports. I think, I think that at least Americans, I can't speak for other parts of the world, but in America, a lot of novelists are not doing sports. Um, so that's one. And I think two, like, like with anything, I think that tennis has not been subjected to the same schemes of narrativization that like other things are. And so like a lot of novelists just like don't see a sort of readily dramatizable thing in tennis. Even though if you like watch tennis and like listen to tennis commentary, they are always erecting narratives. They're like, oh yeah, she's been on a 19 match losing streak. Is this where she turns it around?
Mm.
And to me, tennis is like a very literary sport because tennis is one of those sports where it's all about the matchup. It's like your forehand to my backhand. Like no matter how well I play against everyone else, like it's you and me locked in the struggle. And like that to me feels incredibly literary. Um, and it is so tied to your individual psychology as well. Like I don't know, like I endlessly am fascinated by it. And indeed, I got an idea for a tennis novel the other day that I'm hopefully going to write in 3 to 5 years. We'll see.
Very good. How did working in a lab influence your writing?
Well, somewhat directly and materially in the case of my first book, because I wrote it while I was working in the lab, and it gave me weirdly like time and structure to do that work, where I would be pipetting, and then while I was waiting for an assay or a experiment to run or finish, I would have 30 minutes to sit down and write.
So you were
Um,
writing it like at the lab bench.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
absolutely. 1000%. I would like put on Philip Glass's score for the hours and then just like type while the centrifuge was running, or whatever. And so like there's that impression sort of baked into the first couple books. And then I think more, I guess, like spiritually or broadly, it influenced my work because it taught me how to think and how to organize time and how to organize thoughts and how to sort of pursue long-term open-ended projects whose results may or may not, you know, fail because of something that you did or maybe you didn't do, and that's just the nature of things, who knows. But yeah, I think also just like discipline, the discipline to sort of clock in every day and to sort of go to the coal face and do the work. And that's not a thing that is, you know, that you just get by working in a lab, but it's certainly something that I acquired
Mm.
working in a lab.
Do you think it's affected your interest in criticism? Because there are certain types of critic who seem to come from a scientific background,
Mm.
like Helen Wendler, and there's
Oh,
something about the sort of the precision, and you know that certain critics will refuse to use critical waffle, like the human condition, and they won't make these big vague gestures to like how this can change the way we view society. They're like, give me real details, give me real like empirical criticism. Do you think this is, are you one of these people?
yeah.
Yeah.
I think I'm, you know, I'm all about what's on the page. I'm all about the I'm not gonna go rooting in your biography for I'm not gonna go I'm not doing that. It's like what you brought to me on the page is what you've brought to me, and that is what I will be sort of combing over. I mean, I think so. I mean, very often when critics write about my work or when people respond to my work, they sort of describe it as being put under a microscope. And I do think like that is how I approach literature. It's how I approach life. If there's ever a problem or a question put to me, I just sort of dissect it and try to get down to its core bits and its core parts. And so, yeah, I mean, if that is a scientific way of doing things, that's certainly how I. But also, I don't know any other way to think. Like that's sort of how I was trained to think about stuff.
um, you've been to London.
I have.
What did you think of it?
Ooh. Mm, the first time I didn't love it. Um, the second and third times I had a good time, but I felt like London didn't love me back. London is the only place on earth I've ever been where people have had a hard time understanding me. Like it's the only place where I've like attempted to order food or a drink or something in a store or a cafe or a restaurant, and the waiters like turned to my like British hosts and asked them to translate. Um, and that is an entirely foreign experience for me. Um, and so London and I have like a very contentious relationship, I would say.
Now, you've just published four classic novels:
Yes.
George Gissing, Edith Wharton, Victor Hugo, and Sarah Orne Jewett.
Hmm.
Why did you choose those four writers, those four titles?
Oh, well, once we decided that we were gonna do a classics imprint, you know, then it's like, well, what are we gonna do? And I'm a big Edith Wharton fan, and there are all of these Edith Wharton novels that Americans don't really know about. They know Edith Wharton for The Age of Innocence, and if they are an English major, they maybe know her for The House of Mirth, or like maybe they know her for The Custom of the Country if they're like really into reading. But then they sort of think of her as a novelist of the 19th century, and she was writing all of these books set in the 1920s and about the 1920s. And so it felt important to show people like, oh, this is a writer who died a lot later than you think that she did, and whose creative output was, you know, pretty who was like a contemporary of F. Scott Fitzgerald in a lot of
Right,
ways. Like
right.
these books are being published around the same time as The Great Gatsby, and to sort of, you know, bring attention to a part of her oeuvre that like people don't know about, and like that's really exciting to me. And Sarah Orne Jewett, I mean, I just really love The Country of the Pointed Firs. I love that book, and I found it in like in a 10 cents bin at a flea market one time, and it's a book that people have tried to bring back, and there have been editions of it, but it just felt like if we could get two people who are really cool to talk about why they love that book, we could sort of have like a real moment. And Sarah Orne Jewett was like a pretty big American writer. Like she was a pretty significant writer, and she was like really plugged in, and she's not really read or thought about now. And so that felt like a cool opportunity as well to sort of create a very handsome edition of this book and to sort of talk about a bit why she matters. And the gissing of it all is we were going to do New Grub Street, and then my co-editor thought, well, The Odd Women, I think, is um, perhaps more relevant to our current moment than New Grub Street necessarily. And it would sort of differentiate us from the people, from the presses that are doing reissues of New Grub Street, because there had just been a new edition of that book. And nobody in America really knows The Odd Women. And it's a really wonderful novel. It's both funny and also like really biting in its satire and commentary. So we thought, oh, it'll be fun to bring this writer to Americans who they've never heard of in a way that will speak to them in a lot of ways. And the Victor Hugo, I mean, there are Hugos that people know all about, and then there are Hugos that no one knows about. And Toilers of the Sea was a passion project for my co-editor. She'd read it in Guernsey. That's where she first discovered that book, and it really meant a lot to her. And I read it and really loved it. I mean, it was like Hugo at his most Hugo. Like it's a very it's a very abundant book, and it's so wild and strange and changeful. And so I was like, oh, that seems cool. Let's do it. Let's put out Toilets of the Sea. So that's a bit of why we picked each one.
And what have you learned from being on the other side of things now that you're the publisher?
So much. I've learned so much. And indeed, I was just asked by my editor to do the author questionnaire for the novel that I have coming out next. And I thought, yes, I will do this, and I will do it immediately, because now I know how important these are, and I know how early and how far in advance these things need to be locked in to make everyone's life easier. I think I've learned a bit about the sometimes panicked scramble that happens to get a book published. I've learned about how hard it is to wrangle blurbs, and so I think I'm a little more forgiving of my publishers. But they've always been really great to me. But now I'm like, oh my gosh, what can I do for you? How can I help you make this publication more of a success?
Do you think that among literary people generally, there's a lack of appreciation of what business really involves in some of the senses you're talking about? I feel like
The
I see a lot of either indifferent or hostile attitudes towards business or commerce or capitalism, late stage capitalism or whatever. And I
as it
sometimes look at it and I'm like, I don't think you guys really know what it takes to just like get stuff done. You know what I mean? Like it's a lot of grind. I don't think it's a big nasty thing. It's just a lot of hard work, right?
Yeah, I mean 1000%. Or it's not, or if it's not a sort of misunderstanding, but a sort of like disinterest,
Right.
like a sort of high-minded, like, oh, that's just the sort of petty, grimy commerce of it all. I care about the beauty and the art. And it's just like, friend, we need booksellers to like sell this. I mean, to me, the part of it that is most to me, like the most illustrative example of this in my own life is that when I first heard how my editor was going to be describing my book, I was like, that's disgusting. That's horrible. Why are you talking about my race? Why are you talking about like my sexuality? Like, this is horrible. Why can't you just like talk about the plot of the book? Like, what is the matter with you? And then I acquired and edited this book called Henry Henry, which is a queer contemporary retelling of the Henriade. And it's a wonderful novel. It's so delightful. And I had to go into our sales conference where we are talking to the people whose job it is to sell that book into bookstores, to get bookstores to take that book up. And I had to write this incredibly craven description of this novel. And as I was writing it, I was like, I hope Alan, the author, I hope Alan never sees this. He never needs to hear how I'm talking about this book. And as I was doing, I was like, I will never hold it against my editor again for writing this like cheesy, cringy copy. Because it's like like you so believe in the art of that book so much that you want it to give it every fighting chance in the marketplace. And you need to arm your sales team with every weapon of commerce they need to get that book to succeed so that when readers pick it up, they can appreciate all of the beautiful and glorious art of it. And I do think that people, like people don't really understand that. And I do think that part of that is publishing's fault because they've been rather quick to elide the distinctions between art and commerce. And so like publishing has done a not great job of sort of giving people a lot of faith in its understanding that there's a difference between art and commerce. But yeah, I think there's a lot of misapprehension out there about like what goes into getting bookstores to acquire that book.
What are the virtues of negative book reviews?
I was just on a panel about this. I mean, hopefully a negative book review, like a positive review or like any review, will allow a reader or the audience to understand the book in a new way or to create a desire in the reader to pick up the book and see if they agree or disagree or that they have something to argue with or push against as they're reading. You know, when I'm writing a negative review, when I'm writing a review that I feel is trending toward negative, I should say, I always try to like, I don't know, I try to always remember that like this is just me presenting my experience of the book and my take of the book, and hopefully that will be productive or useful for whoever reads the review. And hopefully that my review won't be the only thing that they read and that they will in fact go pick up the book and see if they agree or disagree. It's hopefully it creates interesting and potentially divergent dialogues or discourses around the text. And fundamentally, I think not every critic feels this way. Not every piece of criticism is like this, but the criticism I write, I'm trying to create the conditions that will refer the reader always back to the text, be it through quotation, be it through they're so incensed by my argument that they're going to go read the book themselves and then like yell at me. Like I think that that's wonderful, but like always keeping the book at the center. But I think a negative review can, it can start a conversation. It can get people talking about books, which in this culture, at this phase of history, feels like a win. And hopefully it can sort of be a corrective sometimes to less genuine or perceived less genuine discourses that are existing about around the book.
I think even whether or not it's a question of genuine, it's for me it's just a question of if you tell people this book is good and they give up their time and money and they discover that it's trash, you've done a really bad thing to that person. And like there might be dozens of them compared to this one author who you've been impolite to or whatever. And it's just a question of don't lie in book, right? Like
Well,
every,
yeah, I mean, hopefully people are honest, but I do feel sometimes that there's like a lack of honesty. And look, I think that being like, well, I mean, maybe you'll love this. I don't love it, but at least present your opinion in that way. At least be like, you know, there are many interpretations of this thing. Here's my interpretation. Maybe you'll feel differently or something like that. But I do think that people feel that there have been a great number of dishonest book reviews. Maybe there have been, maybe there have not been. I certainly have read some reviews I felt were dishonest about books that I have read. And I think that the negative book review does feel a bit like a corrective in a lot of ways, both, justified or unjustified. People are like, finally, someone's being honest about this thing. But yeah, I think it's interesting. I think it's all fascinating. I do think that there are some reviews though that are negative and that are trying to be about the book, but are really about the author. Like there are some reviews that I have read that have been like ostensibly about reviewing a text, but which have really been about you don't like that person and you have decided to sort of like take an axe to them. And that to me feels Not super productive. I wouldn't do it, but other people find it useful.
As in, you can tell that from the review, or you know that from background information, as it were.
I mean, this is all projection, of course, but like there have been some reviews where I've read, like for example, the some of the Lauren Euler reviews. I think some of the Lauren Euler reviews were negative and like were exclusively about the text and like they sort of took the text apart and sort of dissected it and came to conclusions, some of which I agreed with, some of which I didn't agree with, but like they were fundamentally about the text and like all the criticisms referred back to the text.
Mm.
And then there were some that were like projecting attitudes onto the author that were more about creating this sort of vaporish shape of Lauren Euler and then sort of poking holes in her literary celebrity or her stature as a critic or what have you. And that to me felt less productive as like a book review. Um,
Yes. Who are your favorite reviewers?
ooh, my favorite reviewers. I really love Christian Lorenzen.
Hmm.
He does my of the critics who try to do the sort of like mini historiography of like a thing. He's my favorite because he teaches me a lot. He's sort of is so good at summing up an era or summing up a
Mm.
phase of literary production without being like so cringe or so socialist about it. I think I love it when he sort of distills and dissects an era. I really like Hermione Hobie. I think she's really interesting, and she writes about books with a lot of feeling and a lot of energy, and I really love her mind. And of course, like Patricia Lockwood, of course, everyone, perhaps not everyone, but I enjoy Patricia Lockwood's criticism. You don't?
Not really.
Oh, is it because it's too chatty? Is it too selfie?
A little bit. I think that kind of criticism can work really well. But I think it's too much. I think basically she's a very stylized writer,
Mm,
and a lot of her judgments gets to the point where it's like this is the logical conclusion of what you're trying to do stylistically, and there are some zingers in here and some great lines and whatever. But we're no longer this is no longer really a book review.
yeah.
Like by the end of the paragraph, this like we didn't want to let the style go. We didn't want to lose the opportunity to cap that off,
Mm,
and it leads her into, I think, glibness a lot of the time.
yeah.
But
Yeah,
that's
I could see that.
right.
I mean, I enjoy reading her pieces, but do I understand like what's important to her at a sort of literary level? I don't know. I don't, and in that sense, like, is it criticism or is it more closer to like personal essay, humorous essay? I don't know. Maybe that's true. I enjoy reading them, but I get why people are like, this is a very, very strong flavor for sure.
Now you've been reading a lot of literary criticism,
Oh yeah.
not of the LRB variety, but of the old books in libraries variety. Um,
Yes.
how did that start? How did you come to this?
Somewhat like ham-fistedly, I in 2021, um, I had a really bad case of writer's block, and I thought maybe part of the reason I had writer's block was that I didn't know anything about writing, or I didn't know anything about like literature or like writing. Like I'd been writing, I'd published a novel, I was working on another novel, I'd published a book of stories, but like I just like truly didn't know anything about literature really. And I thought I need some big boy ideas. I need to find out what adults think about literature. And so I went to my buddy Christian Lorenzen and I was like, "You write criticism. What is it? And what should I read?" And he gave me a sort of starter list of criticism, and it was like the liberal imagination by Lionel Trilling and Guy Davenport and Alfred Kazin, who wrote On Native Grounds, which is this great book of on the American literary tradition, and Leslie Fiedler's Love and Death in the American Novel and then Edmund Wilson's Axel's Castle, and I read all of those, and then as each one would sort of refer to a different text or person, I sort of like followed the footnotes down into this rabbit hole of like literary criticism, and now it's been a sort of ongoing project of the last few years of like reading. I always try to have a book of criticism on the go. And then earlier this year, I read Jameson's The Antinomies of Realism, and he kept talking about this Georg Lukács guy, and I was like, I guess I should go read Lukács. And so then I started reading Lukács so that I could get back to Jameson, and I've been reading Lukács ever since. I am like deep down the Lukács rabbit hole. But I'm not reading any of the socialism stuff. I told myself that I wouldn't read any of the socialism stuff and that I would only read the literary criticism stuff, which makes me very different from a lot
Mm.
of the socialist literary critics I really enjoy because they're like, Lukács, don't read any of that literary criticism stuff. Just read his socialism stuff. So I'm reading all the wrong stuff from Lukács, but I really love it. But yeah, it sort of started because I thought I needed grown-up ideas about literature. And it's been, I don't know, I've really enjoyed it. I really, really enjoy it. It's given me perhaps terrible ideas about what novels should be or do, but that's one of the side effects to reading.
Has it made, like, what specific ways has it changed how you've written since you've acquired a set of critical principles or
Mm,
ideas?
yeah, I mean, I think part of it is part of it has to do with Lukash's idea of the totality. And, you know, I think that the sort of most direct way that it shows up in a sort of really practical way in my novel writing is that I no longer really want to be starting my books, quote unquote, in media res. Like, I want my books to feel like books. I don't want my books to feel like movies, and I don't want them to feel like treatments for film. And so I want to sort of bring back all of what a novel can do in terms of its structure and in terms of its form and stuff like that. And so it means starting books, you know, with this sort of Dickensian voice of God speaking from on high, sort of summing up an era. And I think also sort of allowing the narrators in my work to dare to sum up, daring allowing characters in my work to have ideologies and to argue about those ideologies. I feel like that is a thing that was sort of denuded from the American novel for a lot of millennials, and just sort of like trying to put back some of that old-fashioned machinery that was like stripped out of the novel. And seeing what of it can still function, seeing trying to figure out if there's any juice left in these modes of representation and stuff like that. And so like that's sort of abstract, but like in a concrete way, like what I'm kind of trying to resolve in my novel writing these days.
You mentioned Dickens.
Ah, yes.
Which Dickens novels do you like?
Now I'm afraid I'm going to say something else controversial.
We love controversial.
Which Dickens? I love Bleak House. I love
Mhm.
Bleak House. I love Tale of Two Cities. It is one of the best openings ever, 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 ever. In the sweep of that book, at once personal and universal. Anyway,
Yeah, yeah.
Bleak House, 12 Two Cities. And I read Great Expectations as like a high school student and didn't like it, hated it, thought it was so boring. But now coming back to it, I think it honestly it might be the novel of our time.
Mm. Mm.
I think it might accidentally be a no I mean, it's a novel of scammers, a novel of like interpersonal beef taken to the level of like like spiritual conflict. Like it's about thieves and like it just feels like that novel could have been written today about people today. Like that book just feels so alive to today's concerns, which perhaps I don't know, says something really evil about this cultural stagnation under capitalism, perhaps. But I don't know. Love Great Expectations now.
Um, why are so many modern novels boring?
Well, it depends on what do you mean by boring, Henry. What do you mean? Why?
Well, Nick, you said this.
Oh,
I mean, I
uh,
happen to agree, but I'm quoting you.
oh yes, I remember that. I remember
Yeah.
that review.
I mean, I can
That
tell you why
interview.
I think they're boring.
Oh yes, please.
So I think what you said before is true. They all read like movies. And I think I very often I go in, I pick up 6 or 7 books on the new book table, and I'm like, these openings are all just the same. You're all thinking, you can all see Netflix in your head. This is not really a novel. And so the dialogue is really boring because you can hear some actor or actress saying it, but I can't hear that because I'm the idiot stuck in the bookshop reading your Netflix script. Um, and so I get this sense, whereas, I think you're right that a lot of those traditional forms of storytelling, they like pull you in to the novel. And they like by the end of the first few pages, you sort of feel like I'm in this funny place now.
Mm,
And to do in media res, like someone needs to get shot, or something weird needs to be said. Like you can't just do another standard opening. So I think
mm.
that's a big part of it.
Well, as Lukács tells us, bourgeois realism has a an unholy fondness for the average, the merely average, as opposed to the typical. And I think, yeah, a lot of it, a lot of why I think it's boring echoes you. I think that for me, what I find boring in a lot of them is that it feels like novelists have abandoned any desire to have their characters or the novels themselves integrate the sort of disparate experiences within the novel into any kind of meaningful whole. And so there isn't this like sense of like things advancing toward a grander understanding. And I think a lot of it is because they are writing under the assumption that like the question of why can never be answered. There can never be like a why. There can never be a sort of significance to anything, and so everything is just sort of like evacuated of significance or meaning. And so you have what I've taken to calling like reality TV fiction, where the characters are just like going places and doing things, and there are no thoughts. There are no thoughts about their lives. There are no thoughts about the things that they are doing. There are no thoughts about their experiences, and it's just a lot of like lowercase e events in their lives, but like no attempt to organize those events into any sort of meaningful whole. Um, and I think also just like what leads to a lot of dead writing is writers who are deeply aware that they're writing about themes. They're writing about themes instead of people, and they're working from generalities instead of particularities and specificities. And they have no understanding of the relationship between the universal and the particular. And so, like, everything is just like beans in a can that they're shaking around. And I think that that's really boring. I think it's really tedious. Like sure, we can find something really profound in the mundane, but like you have to be really smart to do that. So like the average novelist is like better off like starting with
Yeah,
a gunshot or something. Like
yeah.
do something big.
If you're not Virginia Woolf, it is in fact just mundane.
Indeed.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Is there too much emphasis on craft
And
in the
and
way, in like what's valued among writers, in the way writers are taught? I feel like everything I see is about craft, and I'm like, craft is good, but that can just be like how you make a table rather than
mm,
like how you make a house. Craft is not the guarantor of anything, and I see a lot of books where I think this person knows some craft, but as you say, they don't really have an application for it. And they don't,
yeah.
no one actually said to them, all style has a moral purpose, whether you're aware of it or not. And so they default to this like pointless use of the craft. And someone should say to them, like, you need to know history, you need to know tennis, you need to know business, you need to know like whatever, you know? And I
Yeah.
feel like the novels I don't like are reflections of the discourse bubble that the novelist lives in.
Hmm.
And I feel like it's often a continuation of Twitter by other means. So in the Rachel Kong novel that I think it came out this year, there's a billionaire character who comes in near the end, and everything that he says or that is said about him is literally just meme. It's online billionaire meme because billionaires are bad because of all the things we all know from being on Twitter. And I was like, so we literally have him a character as meme. And this is the most representative thing to me because that's maybe there's craft in that, right? But what you've chosen to craft is like 28 tweets. That's pointless.
28 tweets be a great title for a book, though, you have to admit. I would buy that book off the new book table.
Yeah,
28
yeah,
tweets. I would
yeah.
buy that.
Okay,
Um, yeah, I do think, well, I think it goes both ways. I think it goes both
okay.
ways. I somewhat famously said this about Sally Rooney that like her books have no craft. The craft is bad.
Sure, sure,
Um,
sure. Yeah.
and I do think like there are writers who only have craft, who are able to sort of create these wonderfully structured books and to sort of deploy these beautiful techniques. And those books are absolutely dead. Like there's just like nothing in them because they have nothing to say. There's just like nothing to be said about any of that. And on the other hand, you have like, these books that are full of feelings that like would be better had someone taught that person about structure or form,
Yes.
or had they
Yes.
sort of had like a rigorous thing. And I would say that like both of those are probably
Yeah.
bad. Like depending on who you are, you find one more like easier to deal with than the other. Um, I do think that like part of why there's such an emphasis on craft is because not to sort of bring capitalism back in, but you can monetize craft. You know what I mean? Like craft is one of those things that is like readily monetizable. Like if I'm a writer and I would like to make money and I can't sell a novel, I can tell people like, oh, how to craft a perfect opening, how to create a novel opening that will make agents pick it up and that will make editors say yes. But like what the sort of promise of craft is that you can finish a thing, but not that it is good, as you say. There's no guarantor. Um, whereas, like it's harder to monetize someone's soul or like it's harder to monetize like the sort of random happenstance of just like a writer's voice sort of emerging from whatever. Like you can't turn that into profit, but you can turn into profit, let me help you craft your voice. you know
Right.
like,
Right.
so it's a very grind set. I think craft has a tendency to sort of skew toward the grind set and toward people trying to make money from writing when they can't sell a book.
Let's play a game.
Oh dear.
I say the name of a writer. You give us like the 30-second Brandon Taylor opinion of that writer.
Okay.
Yeah?
hmm
Jonathan Franzen,
Uh, Thomas Mann, but like slightly more boring, I think.
Iris Murdoch,
Uh, the yes, the a friend of mine calls her the sort of pre Sally Rooney, and I agree with that. She's
when
just
I'm at parties, I try and sell her to people where I say she's post-war Sally Rooney.
yes. And
Yes.
like all that entails and so
Yeah.
many delightful. I read all these like incredible sort of mid-century reviews of her novels and like the male critics, like the Bernard Berganzis of the world being
Mm.
like, why is there so much sex in this book? It's amazing. Please go look up those like mid-century reviews of Ice Murdoch. They were losing their
Yeah,
minds.
yeah, yeah. Chekhov,
Perfect, iconic, baby girl, angel, legend. Can't get enough. 10 out of 10. Um,
Evelyn Waugh.
so Catholic, real Catholic vibes. Um, but like scabbarously funny and like perhaps the last writer to write about life as though it had meaning. Hot take, but I stand by it.
Yeah. Well, him and Murdoch, but yeah, no, I think there's a lot in that. C.V. Wedgwood.
Oh my gosh. The best. A titan, a master of history. Like, oh my God. I would not be the same without Wedgwood.
Tell us which one we should read.
Oh, the 30 Years' War. What are you talking about?
Well, I think her book's on the English Civil War, you see, because
Oh,
I'm a
see,
parochial Brit.
see, I don't. Not that I don't. I will go read those. But her book on the 30 Years' War is so incredible. It's it's amazing. It's second to like Froissart's Chronicles for like sort of history books for me.
Northrop Frye.
My father, I Northrop Frye. taught me so much about how to see and how to think. Just amazing. A true thinker in a mind.
Which book?
Oh, Anatomy of Criticism is fantastic, but Fearful Symmetry is just it will blow your head off. Just amazing. But if you're looking for like a to have your mind gently remapped, then Anatomy of Criticism.
Emma Klein.
A throwback. I think she's I think she's Anne Beattie meets John Cheever for a new era, and I think she's amazing. She's perfect. Don't love her first novel. I think her stories are better. She's a short story writer, and she should stay that way.
Okay, now I want you to rank Jane Austen's novels.
Wait, okay. So like by my preference or by like what I think is the best.
You can do both.
Okay. So in terms my favorite Persuasion, then Mansfield Park, Sense and Sensibility, Pride and Prejudice, and then Emma, the Northanger Abbey.
Okay. Now, how about for which ones are the best?
Persuasion, um, Pride and Prejudice, Mansfield Park, Emma, Sense and Sensibility, Northanger Abbey.
Why do people not like Fanny Price, and what is wrong with them?
Fanny Price is perfect. Fanny Price, I was just talking to someone about this last night at dinner. Fanny Price, she's perfect, first of all. She is, I don't know why people don't like her. She's like a chronically ill girl who's hot for her cousin and like has deep thoughts. It seems like she would be the icon of literary Twitter for like a certain kind of person, you know? And I don't know why they don't like her. I think I am becoming the loudest Mansfield Park apologist on the internet. I think that people don't like Fanny because she's less vivacious than Mary Crawford. And I think that people are afraid to see themselves in Fanny because she seems like she's unfun or whatever. But what they don't realize is that like Fanny Price has like a moral intelligence and like a moral consciousness. And like Fanny Price is one of the few Austen characters who actually argues directly and literally about the way the world is. Like with multiple people, like the whole novel is her sort of arguing about, well, cities are this and the country is this, and like we need parsons as much as we need party boys. Like she's arguing not just about these things like through the lens of like marriage or like the sort of marriage economy, but like in literal terms. Like she's like a moral philosopher. I love Fanny Price, and she's so smart and so sensitive and I guess like maybe it's just that people don't like a character who's kind of at the mercy of others and they view her as passive, when in fact, like a young woman arguing about the way the world should be, like Mary Crawford's like kind of doing that, but not really, not like Fanny. But yeah, I love her. She's amazing. I love Fanny Price, and I also think that people love Margaret Hale from North and South. And I think that when people are saying they hate Fanny Price, what they're picturing is actually how Margaret Hale is. Margaret Hale is one of the worst heroines of a novel. She's so insufferable. She's so rude. She's so condescending. And like she does get her comeuppance, and like Gaskell does sort of bring about a transformation where she's actually able to sort of like see poor people as people first and not like subjects of sympathy. But Margaret is what people imagine Fanny is, I think. And we should start a Fanny Price like booster club. Henry, should
Oh my
we?
God, let's do it. It begins here.
I just feel so strongly about her.
Yeah.
I love Fanny.
She's my favorite of Austen's characters, and I think she is the most representative Austen character. She's the most
Mm,
Austen of all of them, right?
yeah, I mean, that makes great deal of sense to me. She's just so wonderful. Like
Yeah.
she's so funny and so observant, and she's like this quiet little girl who's like kind of sickly and people don't really like her, and she's kind of maybe I just like see myself in her, and I don't mind being a sort of annoying little person who's going around in the world.
Um, what are some good principles for naming literary characters?
Ooh. I have a lot of strong feelings about this. Um I think that names should be memorable. They should have like an aura of sort of literariness about them. I don't mean I mean taken to like hilarious extremes. It's like Henry James, Caspar Goodwood, Isabel Archer, Ralph Touchett, like, you know, Henrietta Stackpole. So like not like that, but I mean that could be fun in a modern way. But I think there's like an aura of like it's a name that you might hear in real life, but it's sort of at a remove. It's sort of charged and elevated, sort of like with dialogue, and that it's like a memorable thing that sort of sticks in the reader's mind. It is both a name, a good literary name is both a part of this world and not of this world, I think. Um, and yeah, and I love that. I think like don't give your character a name like you hear all the time. Like Tyler is a terrible literary name. Like no good novel has ever had a really important character named Tyler in it. It just hasn't. Ryan,
What makes a good sentence?
well, my sort of like live and let live answer is that a good sentence is a sentence that is perfectly suited to the purpose it has. But I don't know. I like a clear sentence, regardless of length or lyric intensity, but just like a clear sentence that articulates something. Um, I like a sentence with motion, a sense of rhythm, a sense of feel, without any bad words in it. And I don't mean like curse words, I mean like words that shouldn't be in literature. Like there's some words that just like don't belong in novels.
Like what?
Squelch. Like I don't think the word squelch should be in a novel. Like that's a gross word and it doesn't sound literary to me. I don't want to see it.
I wouldn't be surprised if it was in Ulysses.
Well, yes,
I have no idea, but I'm sure it was
but
something.
so few of us are James Joyce. And that novel is like 1,000 bodily functions per page. But don't love it. Don't love it.
You don't love
Mm-mm.
Ulysses.
No, well, I don't listen. I don't have a strong opinion, but you're not gonna get me canceled about Ulysses. I'm not
No,
Virginia Woolf.
we're we're happy to have opinions of that nature here. That's fine.
Um, you know, I don't have a strong feeling about it actually. Some parts of it that I've read are really wonderful, and some parts of it that I have read are really dense and confusing to me. I
Yeah.
haven't sort of given it the time it needs or deserves.
What did you learn from reading Toni Morrison?
What did I learn? I think I learned a lot about the moral force of melodrama. I think that she shows us a lot about the uses of melodrama and how it isn't just like a lesion of realism, that it isn't just a sort of malfunctioning realism, but that there are certain experiences and certain lives and certain things that require and necessitate melodrama. And when deployed, it's not tacky or distasteful, that it actually is like deeply necessary. And also just like the joy of excess in language, like the sort of her language is so towering. I don't know, whenever I'm being really shy about a sentence being too vivid or too much, I'm like, well, Toni Morrison would just go for it. And I am not Toni Morrison, but she has given me the courage to to try.
What did you like about the Annette Bening film of The Seagull?
The moment when Annette Bening sings Dark Eyes
Yeah.
is so good. It's so good. I think about it all the time. And indeed, I stole that moment for a short story that I wrote. And I liked that part of it. I liked the set design. I think also Saoirse Ronan, when she gives that speech as Nina, where she's like, you know, where the guy's like, well, what do you want from, what do you want? Why do you want to be an actress? And she's like, I want fame, like I want to be totally adored. And I'm just like, yeah, that's so real. That is so real. Like Chekhov has understood something so deep about the nature of commerce and art there. And I think Saoirse's really wonderful in that movie. It's not a good movie. It's maybe not even a good adaptation of The Seagull. But I really enjoyed it. I saw it like 5 times in a theater in Iowa City.
I don't know if it's a bad adaptation of The Seagull because it's one of the Chekhovs I've seen that actually understands that like the tragic and the comic are not meant to be easily distinguishable in his work.
Mm.
And it does have all this lightheartedness and it is quite funny. And I was like, well, at least someone's doing that because I'm so sick of like gloomy Chekhov.
Gloomy
You know what I
Chekhov.
mean? Like, oh, the clouds and the misery. Like, no, he wants you to laugh and then be like, I shouldn't laugh because it's kind of tragic, but it's also just funny.
Yeah. Yes, I mean all the moments where like Annette Bening's character's like endless stories, like she's just like constantly unfurling a story and a story and a story and a story. Every scene
So
kind
good.
of is like she's in the middle of telling another interminable anecdote. And of course the sort of big tragic turn at the end is like where like Costi like kills himself and she's like in the middle of like another really long anecdote while they're in the other room playing cards. Like it's so good. It's so good. I love that. I enjoy watching that movie. I still think it's maybe not. It's a little wooden. Like as a movie, like it's a little
Oh,
rickety.
sure, sure,
Yeah.
sure, sure. But for someone looking to like get a handle on Chekhov, it's actually a good place to go, I think.
Mm.
What is the best make of fountain pen?
Hmm. That's a really good. That's a really, really, really
Like,
good
what's your
question.
desert island fountain pen?
My desert island fountain pen. Right now, it's an Esterbrook Esty. Um, with a needlepoint nib. It's like so I can use that pen for hours and hours and hours and hours. Um, I think my favorite fountain pen though is probably the Pilot Custom 743. Um, it's a really good pen, not too big, not too small, can hold a ton of ink, really wonderful. I use I think like a soft fine nib, incredible nib, so smooth. Like I you could cap it and then uncap it a month later and it just like starts immediately. It's amazing. And it's not too expensive.
Brandon Taylor, thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.